Let's just remind everybody to put your phones to
So we're here interviewing Gary Montalto, historic Arlington boys varsity soccer coach, multiple state championships, New York State High School Coaches Hall of Fame. My name is Aiden Ryan.
Mary Kirk.
And we are interviewing Gary. So first off, really hard question. What is your name?
Gary Montalto.
Awesome. How long did you live in Dutchess County, and what did you, or what do you still love about it?
I was born here in Poughkeepsie back in 1951, and I lived here for my first 59 years, and coincided with the retirement of Arlington in 2010. Then that's when we moved down to Delaware. So I was pretty deeply rooted in the area in Dutchess County. I actually also went to Arlington High School as a student and graduated there. So came out of Cortland and got a job there. So I really have been Arlington through my entire life.
Is there something specific that really resonates with you about sports in Dutchess County or living in Dutchess County?
Well, my dad was a sports enthusiast, so I was involved in, growing up in baseball, in basketball. We went to all kinds of local athletic contests and so on. So the whole athletic interest sprouted up right from being a very young person. Got involved in the youth sports growing up, and then as I got older, became interested as a spectator for the different high school sports. And I've been around the sports scene in Dutchess County for the entire time. And there's a lot of history to Dutchess County sports, so it's very, very intriguing.
So just to transition from Dutchess County and like your entire experiences to maybe when you were first starting to play, when did you start playing sports? And kind of what did those early experiences mean to you, and how do you say that would kind of shape your playing career?
I began playing sports at the various levels of probably 6, 7 years old. It involved such things as baseball, which I mentioned, basketball, bowling. There was a bantam bowling league at Marty Bob here in town of Poughkeepsie. So I did ice hockey, which was kind of informal. They didn't really have leagues at the time, so I was involved in all kinds of things growing up. And my original thought as I continued on to get older through high school, I was thinking it had to be something in the line of sports that I wanted to get involved in. I didn't know it was going to be, it's going to end up being coaching and teaching, but I was thinking more in the line of maybe a sports announcer or something along that line, because I was so heavily involved in and interested in all kinds of sports, not just one.
Was there a person from maybe your early career or your first years of coaching, or someone like during your education that you drew inspiration from and inspired your decision to become a coach?
Well, interesting enough, when I made the varsity baseball team at Arlington, my coach there was the legendary Fritz Jordan, who that entire athletic facility is named after him. He was probably an AD and a teacher and a coach there for 40 years. Interesting enough, when I made the team and I wasn't playing because I was a pitcher, he had me coaching first base, and he nicknamed me Miller Huggins. And I come to find out that Miller Huggins was a very famous coach for the New York Giants baseball team in the professional league. And I had asked him one time, why do you call me Miller Huggins? And he said, I think you have this coaching mind, and I want you to be on first base when our team's up to bat. So I'd probably take a lot of that from Mr. Jordan. whether that spurred me on to become a coach, I'm not sure, but he saw that in me, and I find that very interesting that he was able to kind of pick up on my kind of internal lookings, kind of looking deeply into the sport itself, with some of the subtleties of the sport. So that's where I would pick it up from there.
Gary, what are some of the qualities that make a good coach?
I think the ability to adjust at moments' notice. I actually was a psych minor at Cortland, and the understanding of athletes and being able to read into their minds a little bit and how they're reacting to positive things and negative things, and can they overcome certain obstacles. They were all a tremendous help in coaching, and I'm not sure a lot of coaches have a psych background, to tell you the truth, and I think that's a really kind of an unknown quantity and a quality that I think would really help many coaches if they had taken some courses to give them an extra background of not just the sport, but how to deal with people.
What was your first coaching role, and how would you say that those maybe inexperiences as coaching, like how would you say that you built on that on your own, not using outside help, but just like learning through the process?
The first coaching role was I graduated from Cortland in May of '74, and that fall I took a coaching job with the Town of Green Soccer League. It was a group of 8 to 12-year-old boys and girls combined, because there weren't enough of either sex to form separate teams and a separate league. And it was, I think, a 16 league, all sponsored by businesses out in the town of Grange. Our team was Myron Lumber, which is now the Sports Net in LaGrange, the fitness facility. And it was kind of trial by error. I didn't start taking my licensing courses until I got the job at Arlington, which was '76. So the varsity position opened up in the fall of '79. So that's when I began taking the coaching courses that are licensed through the United States Soccer Federation and then the National Soccer Coaches Association of America. So, but at the beginning it was just trial by error, looking at books myself and having, I had formulated a notebook from my experience at Cortland, because as I had mentioned at the ceremony, as a physical education major, you had to get a participation credit each year to solve that part of the degree, and if you didn't make a team, then you had to find another way of getting that participation credit. And mine was to become a manager along with a couple other guys for the varsity boys soccer team. And I had 2 different coaches during my stint there, and I caught the fever of soccer, so I just began to, after every training session, I'd go back and I started a notebook of what they did and how they ran that practice. And so I kind of had my own library of notes to start off, and I took that little team of young people of 8 to 12.
Can you tell us some more about your role as a soccer coach at Arlington?
Well, longevity, 35 years. I started JV soccer 77, 78, and then from 79 to 2010, it's all varsity. The thing that most people forget about is I was the varsity girls coach for 14 seasons. The program started not until 1982, and I took it over in the 84-85 school year. The girls here in this area of Section 1, which encompasses Dutchess all the way down to the border of New York City, they just played spring soccer. So it was held in the spring. They weren't involved in the state championships. They could only win a Section 1 title, which was Dutchess, Westchester, Putnam, Rockland County. And so that portion of my career kind of gets forgotten a little bit, but it was also very exciting and very rewarding. So just the longevity itself, I'm not sure with everything that's developed in today's age with parental pressure and their push on having their kids be the stars and play and so on. I don't know if coaches are going to be able to go 35 years like I did in a public school setting without getting burned out. So it really, I think I came along at the perfect time for my career to develop and take the long ride with it.
I know we just asked you about kind of your entire coaching career. Just to go back to the very beginning at Arlington, what led to you ultimately getting that role as the varsity soccer coach at Arlington?
By complete accident, actually. A lot of times when you get a lower level position in the school district, coaching-wise, whether it be middle school or JV, you're pretty much figuring that you're going to be relegated to that position until somebody retires. And then even then, it's not going to be a given that you get the position because you never know how many candidates will apply for a job, whether the AD wants to go outside the district and look, or whether you have somebody just as qualified within the district. But the varsity job came about because I worked under the JV coach. I worked under the varsity coach, a gentleman named Gordon Bright. And he was a history teacher and slash coach. But his real love was politics, Dutchess County politics. And I think he was a supervisor at the time for one of the towns, might have been Beekman. And he just decided in the summer of '79 to put in his resignation for the varsity job. And so I was actually called in New Jersey on vacation by the AD, would you like to take the varsity job? And I said, it's like only 2 weeks from now. And he said, yeah, that's right, and Gordon just resigned. So you talk about a crazy situation. But I said yes, and from there, it's history from there. But it was more frightening than exciting to have that three-letter word yes, but it worked out well.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned you're working with the girls' team like right at the beginning of when the team started. What was so special about that for you as a coach?
Girls, I don't know whether it's most special or more special than the boys, but the girls are a special breed with regards to how they handle adversity versus the boys. They train just as hard, they're just as competitive, they're just as passionate, but with regards to adversity, after a loss, they can pretty much forget about it pretty quickly. I mean, we'd be coming home on if we had a loss and we were on the bus from an away game, it could be 10, 15 minutes in and they'd be singing or just really chatting with each other and having a good time, kind of forgetting about the game and some of the things that happened to make the loss occur, whereas the boys, they seem to hold on to things a little bit longer. Their frustration level's a little bit different, and sometimes it's a lot. It's difficult for the coach to get them to ease back down into a more regulated, normal, back into normal life, and just move on. And then, the next day we can discuss it a little further. But other than that, as athletes, I don't see a lot of difference. They really perform as well in all aspects of training, competitiveness, passion, discipline, you name it. I just never found that much difference.
What were some strategies that you used then to kind of deal with morale after a tough loss for any team that you worked with?
Well, I always had the habit of not just releasing it, either the girls or the boys, after the loss. I would ask for 5 or 10 minutes at a time to after equipment was collected and their bags were all set with their whatever gear they had, and just to sit down and go over a few things that occurred that might have been the bigger issues in the loss, and that I would let them know that I would be going home and taking a half hour or so to sit by myself and write down some notes that I was going to bring to them the next day, and just to let them know that it wasn't going to be a loss and forget about it completely. Most of the times, your biggest learning can occur from losing. So I just wanted to. I think that was the biggest thing through the career, that we talked for no longer than 10 minutes before we got on the bus, or I released them to go home to their homes, and I let them know that I would be taking notes at home by myself to bring out the positives and the negatives of what occurred in the match, and we talked about it the next day. And that kind of, I think that really eased the tension, it calmed things down. It let them know that I was there for them in a teaching moment to not just blow the loss off and move on, but to learn from it. So that was probably the biggest quality.
How would you describe the culture of Arlington soccer before you were varsity head coach, and then during, and maybe any changes that occurred while you were the head coach?
Actually, come to find out, because I did some history in our Arlington library of the coaches before me, the Arlington boys soccer started in the early 60s, a little bit before I got to the high school. So the program was definitely, that goes back to the history of girls and boys sports, where girls and women really weren't recognized as athletes quite as early as guys, and all these programs for the girls really got started so much later. But the boys soccer program really was pretty good prior to me taking over, but the boys soccer tournament, the state championship tournament, didn't start until 1978. So the furthest the boys could go at that early times was also just a Section 1 championship, which was the 4 counties, Rockland, Dutchess, Putnam, and Westchester. So it had its thrills and it had its excitement, but that's as far as you could go. And then when they finally established the tournament in '78, that brought more excitement to every season, because I think the goal of every team is to sometime, somewhere, somehow get to a state championship and realize and enjoy and experience the thrill of something that big. But so it was definitely good before I took over. It just continued to blossom through local interest. After somewhere during my couple years of JV and then early varsity, all the townships began to establish their own leagues. So it was not just East Fishkill and town of Poughkeepsie, it became Beekman, LaGrange, Poquake. I mean, every little town had their own league now. And so now you're talking, instead of having 60 boys try out for high school soccer, it got to a point somewhere in the middle of my career where we were 115, 120 players coming out for tryouts. So the numbers and the interest throughout the entire county really helped not only Arlington grow, but the other schools too, because we ended up with Boise Ketchum ended up in a state championship, John Jay ended up in a state championship, Spackmankill ended up in a state championship, Rhinebeck. So, I mean, it wasn't just Arlington that blossomed, it was everybody kind of really grew and got better and got more competitive, and on a state level was able to compete with anybody.
What was your favorite aspect of working with the teams at Arlington?
The camaraderie, the personal connections that began to develop. To this day, for all the student athletes that I had, I still get Facebook messages. I've had invitations to weddings, invitations to christenings, confirmations. I mean, you name it, and that's all to do with the coaching. Unlike not in a negative way, but unlike a classroom teacher where the students come in for 45 minutes and they leave. I'm with those athletes sometimes 6 hours a day. They get out of school, we meet for a while, we have a home game we have an away game that could be 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half away. We're together on the bus, we have the match, it's an hour and a half, we come back on another hour ride. I mean, I'm with these student athletes for probably almost as much as maybe their parents, because their parents, if they're both working, their parents may not arrive home until 5 o'clock, and then maybe from 5 to 10, 5 to 11, I don't know what kind of interaction there may be, that they have dinner together. These student athletes may then be doing their homework, so there may not be much conversation involved. So I didn't take the place of a parent, but I probably spent as much time with them as a parent, and those connections were vitally important. And they carried on well after they left me and after I retired. So that's the biggest joy of what comes out of coaching and being with students for such a long time, for an intense period of, well, you figure you have tryouts in August and you can go to almost Thanksgiving, so it's a really intense 3.5-month period, and you really get to know people in that short, difficult time.
How would you describe your growth as a coach during your time at Arlington?
I think I became smarter with regards to the technical and the tactical part of the sport. Definitely, it was a long learning process through education and through clinics and through the suggestions and advice and pointers from other soccer coaches that I became friends with that had much more soccer experience as a player, and they were able to pass along some of the subtleties of the sport. The other thing is having that teacher part in you, being able to formulate plans and have things organized for practices as well as games, and being able to have a disciplined structure out of your student athletes, your players. The teacher part of it and the coach part of it all blended in together, and that continued to grow through my career as far as the experience of it all, and just learning a little bit more of how to handle all those aspects together. I think that was the biggest thing.
What is a piece of advice that you would give to young players now?
Other than have a passion for what you're doing, and along with the passion, it has to be fun. But for the younger players, if you really, really love the sport and it's something that you want to excel at, it takes more than just your team practices, whenever they may be, whichever club team you might be involved in or town team you're involved in. It has to be a lot of self-practice, and go home and in my case, since it's soccer, dribble the soccer ball around the yard, do some juggling. If you have a brother or sister, passing back and forth. Go over to, if you're anywhere near a soccer field or a school and they have a soccer net, go over there and knock the ball around with different shots and so on. It's a lot more than just showing up at practice and then going back home and not touching the ball again until the next practice. And growing up here in Poughkeepsie, for example, being a basketball person, I would sometimes after school take a bike and ride over to different playgrounds, and it'd be 15, 20 people playing basketball, and you get involved in a pickup game. And that's where you kind of learn to play and really become a more student of the game. And a lot of young people today need to be coached. They can't just go out and play on their own, or say, to their friends, let's go meet in the field after school and let's have a little pickup game. you don't see that as much, and that's what I would encourage young players to do, is be a little bit more creative in their practices versus just showing up on their club team, practicing, going home, putting the ball on their shelf and not taking it back until the next practice. So, young players need to be a little bit more of what happened years ago, where you just went out and played after school and you did it amongst friends. That's where you kind of learned a little bit more. You know, the structure and the tactics, they can be taught by the coach, but a lot of the little subtleties of in soccer, dribbling and being able to work with the ball like magic and beat defenders. A lot of our players here can't do that because they just don't, they don't take that extra time and effort. So that's what I would encourage the younger players, if they really want it. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, what do you think the biggest modern day challenge or maybe roadblock is for high school athletes?
With regards to them wanting to continue their career at a higher level,
or just in general, like them achieving success, like them, a high school athlete being able to achieve the success that they want to, or just simply enjoying the sport that they love playing?
Well, believe it or not, I think our student athletes, not just soccer, since that's what I've been involved in, but student athletes in general, I think they become much more disciplined than your average student because they're balancing their sport, they're balancing their academics, they're balancing their home life, and time management is created at an earlier age for athletes, and I think that's the biggest thing that you can have for yourself, is a great discipline of time management, whether you're an athlete or not. But I just found my athletes had such good grades. For the most part, I had very few athletes that were failures in school. They were maybe a little above average. Not all of them were great, but so many of them were on the honor roll all the time, or they were within the first top 10 students in the class as far as graduation GPA. I think that helps them to in their growth as a human being, to establish all of that, and it'll help them with their job whenever they get their job out of college. If they wanted to play in college, it certainly will help them in that first year as a freshman to balance how much time a college coach wants you on the field versus you need to spend now the time. You basically have 3 areas in college, right? You have, if you're an athlete, you have your athletic time, your academic time, and your social time. And I'm not sure, as a student athlete at the college level, whether, regardless of division, 1, 2, or 3, I don't know if you can do all 3 and succeed in all 3 at a higher level, because they're almost like 3 full-time jobs. And so that time management that's been developed in the high school years would certainly be a huge plus in their college years. And then if they don't want to play college athletics as a team, now many of the colleges have great clubs and they have club teams. And so it's a little bit less time, but it will solve their passion for competition and their love of the game, to be able to get out there and continue to play, even though they don't want to do it on the athletic team. So all that combined together is the advice I would try to give high school athletes and have them succeed.
How would you compare maybe parental involvement? How would you compare that from the time that you started coaching to now?
That aspect and that subject area in today's world is why I don't believe many coaches, if any, would be able to get 35 years in a public school setting like I did. There seems to be so much interference on the parental level with regards to their own children, and what they perceive as being fair or unfair with playing time or treatment or whatever. So they go to the athletic director, they go to the school principal, they go to the superintendent. And that constant pressure of those types of administrators coming to the coach all the time and saying, I received a call from so-and-so, you know, what's the backstory of this? You know, have you had discussions with the parent and the player and so on and so forth? That gets unnerving after a while, and it gets very, very difficult to handle. And so it just puts added pressure on the school coach. And I don't know, you know, the tenure. I think the tenure of the coaches, if they were to take a study over the time that I started in the early 70s or late 70s versus the coaches that are starting maybe in the early 2000s running through now, I think the tenures would be, you would find the tenure of my generation much longer than the tenure of the newer generations because of all the interference. It's sad, but part of this interference has occurred because the parents have their children playing in all outside teams, and if they don't like that outside team, they jump to another outside team. And if they don't like that outside team, they jump to another outside team. And in many of the sports, not only are they jumping from club to club, but it's kind of a pay to play. So now when they're paying for their children to participate and they're not getting the playing time, that's when they jump to another club. But then when they jump to these different clubs and they've been paying for this expertise, so-called expertise, then when they come back to school ball, they're expecting that their children should be immediately on the field because they've invested heavily into paying for them to supposedly gain this extensive knowledge and extensive ability to play at a high level, and then come to find out, in the case of Arlington, a huge school district, there may be somebody from the other part of the school district that now comes into tryouts and is able to win that position because of their better skill than the boy that's the parents have jumped them from all over the place. So I'm glad I coached when I did. If I had a coach now, I do some volunteer stuff, but if I had a coach now at a full-time position, I would find it exhausting to try to answer to all the parents all the time.
So building on that, what is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring coach now?
Have total self-confidence in yourself. Treat your players absolutely as fairly as possible without any favorites. That's when you kind of run into trouble. And I think through parent meetings at the beginning of the season, kind of lay out your philosophy. Let them know especially that this is an interscholastic sport situation now, so it's not intramurals. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be playing equally. If the goal of the sports program that you're coaching is to win as many games as you can, and maybe win a league title, maybe go to a state championship, it's going to be done with regards to the coach trying to put what he feels and the coaching staff feels are the best players to be on the field at certain times. And I think you really need to be a little bit more transparent than back in the day to the parents, so there's not this shade of gray to where you're going to run into some problems and all these complaints and phone calls and so on. So transparency, parent meetings, fairness, and just try to establish a real nice rapport with your student athletes to make sure that they all feel as though they have a fair shot at their personal goal of playing and being the integral part of the team.
So you said that you're living in Delaware now, is correct?
Correct.
Okay. What have you been doing maybe in your spare time, and what have you really enjoyed about living in Delaware? And also, not to ask 3 questions at once, but are sports still a big part of your life?
They are. As I had mentioned at the ceremony, I was very deeply rooted here, and actually early in our interview here, my first 59 years were here in Poughkeepsie, nowhere else. Never really got too far except for my years at Cortland, and then right back here in Dutchess County. So when I retired in 2010 and moved to Delaware, I needed to meet people. I'm kind of a social person, so I began to substitute at the middle school and the high school. And got to know the phys ed teachers, but got a gauge of the sports programs down at that local high school, which is in Lewis area of Delaware, lower. They called it lower slower area of Delaware. It used to be much of a farming area, but now it's the build up in that area is just insane. But anyways, I started to go to some of their high school sports, and somehow or another it just fell into place where I got back involved in soccer, and I became a coach at the high school there. Took the head job for 4 years, and I didn't find it too different, except for the diversity of the students down there, much different than what I was used to coaching. The diversity here now in the Poughkeepsie area and even in Arlington is pretty much the same. You have your diversity of your Hispanic people, your black people, your suburban whites, and so on. And that's what I found down there, which I really didn't have at Arlington at the time. Early on in that 70s and early 80s, you didn't see as many Spanish heritage and Hispanic heritage people on your teams in Arlington, anyways. And I only had a couple of very few black players that I'm still actually the two of them brothers, actually, and their sister were on that first team in Myron when I came out of Cortland, and still good friends with them today. But I think then after I resigned, I started volunteering with the high school team, so I stayed involved. And then probably 7 or 8 years ago, the high school coach said, would you run a camp for the varsity candidates before I can officially start preseason? So I've been doing that every August, just before they start the regular preseason for their team. I run a camp 1 week for any varsity candidate that wants to come out. And then sports-wise, I go to high school basketball games, I go to high school lacrosse games, I go to high school actually, if I'm not going to a soccer game in the fall, I go to a field hockey game. Their sports are very good down there. And then recreationally, I play some golf, and I've gotten involved in volunteering with the Historical Society in Lewis. Lewis is the first town in the first state of our United States, so there's a lot of history down there. And there's a complex of about a dozen buildings that have all been moved to this one complex over the course of the years. Doctors' offices, schoolhouses, so on. And I volunteer a couple times a week there, taking care of the buildings and grounds with a bunch of other guys. So I find my days go by faster than sometimes they did when I was teaching. But it's all good.
So, to wrap up, in light of your career and all your success, what do sports mean to you now?
I'm still a huge sports enthusiast, as a spectator now more than anything else. But whenever I get a chance to either work with young people in soccer, I have, in fact, I've received a few calls over this past summer to train some young girls that were in 6th grade, and that came about through a connection of my former principal at the high school in Arlington, Mr. Brooks. His nephew moved down to Delaware 5-6 years ago. He has a daughter that's in 6th grade. She's on the travel team. And next thing I know, I get a call from him. Would you be interested in training my daughter and some of her friends? So it's still kind of ongoing. But it's just, I will continue to love sports, not just soccer, but everything. And the excitement is building for 2026 World Cup, being here in the United States and Canada and Mexico, whether they outprice everybody for tickets, that remains to be seen. But Philadelphia is right there. That's going to be one of the sites. And even with my kids and grandkids in New York, the Giant Stadium is going to be another site. So I recall that when the World Cup was here in '94, I saw 2 games in Giant Stadium, and then I saw the quarterfinals in Gillette Stadium, just outside of Boston. So the excitement of my experience back in '94, I'd love to be able to do it again, because whether it would be a third time could be probably very minimal. So sports will stay in my life until the end, for sure.
So we started with a really hard-hitting question of what is your name? So I just wanted to end on another really hard-hitting question. What would be your favorite place for a slice of pizza in Dutchess County?
Slice of pizza in Dutchess County. Wow. Back in the day that I lived here, Alloy's was our favorite place for pizza, because it was one of the few ones that had square pizza. But now, being that away for 15 years and then coming back, I kind of go with the flow of what, if we're visiting friends and they say, let's go out for pizza, I just kind of go where they want to go, or my daughter and son-in-law, they live out in the Beekman area, and they like to go to Pizza Express, which is off of 82 and 55 right there out in that area. So I found a couple of good spots in Delaware, but that doesn't help me with the interview here. So that's about the best I can do for pizza.
Awesome.
Actually, I will add this. I love Gino's. So Gino's is right on Main Street in Poughkeepsie. Gino's Pizza, as well as the rest of his food. When we get a chance, we usually go to Gino's. So that partially answers that question.
It's good to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
it's been awesome. Thank you.
All good.